to the Forward Together podcast. This is the number one podcast that we're doing. We're excited to be here. We're going to bring you what's going on in Franklin County, Virginia, and the world. Give you our perspective of what's going on just outside our door and what we see on TV and the internet around the world. I know that I can't wait to get started. This is Rob, I'm Jamie, and we're going to kick it off with this weekend. We had the Kingdom Run here at the Rocky Mount Church of God. Rob, tell me a little bit about that and how it went.
Man, the Kingdom Run was an awesome event. We had a beautiful day. When we got up Saturday morning, just a beautiful morning, we started seeing people trickling in here about as early as 7, and I think we ended up with about 95 people register for this event. So this is important, as you know, because the funds that we raise from this event go to support our food pantry. God's Provision Food Pantry has been in operation here in Franklin County. It's been a ministry of our church for over 20 years. And this event was started, this was actually our 7th annual Kingdom Run. As I look back at the records, we realized this is the 7th year.
I got 3 of them.
That we've done this. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you've been
almost half. We'll hit half next year.
It's been growing, huh?
Yeah.
Your times have been getting better?
They've been getting better. I am, as Tom Ford said, we'll get a Forism on here. I was like a snail on a turtle going, whee! But I am a lot faster than I started. Definitely not a runner. Beautiful day. Cracks me up. As someone who can barely run a 5K, we get people here at like 7 o'clock so they can run a couple miles to get warmed up for it. Don't understand that. I got 3.2 in me, and that's kind of it. So 95 runners, that's great. And then you said it goes to the food pantry, which I think kind of brings into a bigger topic of, that is being, I know the church supports that. And, kind of your perspective on, I believe that as being like the hands and feet of Christ, right? That, it's easy to come into church on Sunday morning, watch a sermon from your home on Facebook, but kind of talk about like how that's like being the hands and feet of Christ.
Yeah, so it's more than just giving groceries. It's more than just being able to say, here's something we want to be able to help people who are, what is it that they say? They're food insecurity.
Yeah,
that's the word.
Don't call people hungry anymore. It's food insecure.
Food insecurity. So
that'd be politically correct.
It's more than just helping people who are food insecure. We want them to see the love of Christ in us and what we're doing. And I think about scriptures like Matthew 25:40, where Jesus talks about if you've fed the poor, you've clothed those who need clothing, you visited those who are in prison, and if you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. So it's as we are doing these things that, in a sense, we're worshiping the Lord. We're doing it as unto the Lord. It's not just that we're putting all this effort and all this work into just helping the community in this way, but we're not just meeting a physical need that they have, that everyone has, but also a spiritual need. And we're trying to touch them in this really very significant area that of their lives, of course. And so the Kingdom Run, God's Provision Food Pantry, it's so important that we're able to have this race, because it enables us to raise the funds that we need to support this ministry throughout the year. It takes about $1,500 a month to be able to operate the food pantry. The operational expenses, the rent, the utilities, fuel, all the things that go into just being able to do what we do every month. And so the folks that registered, the businesses that sponsored us, that were here. We had a couple of our sponsors here on Saturday who were able to kind of share their heart, why they wanted to be involved in this. And I think there's just so many wins with it.
I agree. I do think it's important to note that, not only is it the church that's coming out and supporting, we do have a lot of businesses and sponsors, because I think people realize, even if maybe you're not faith-based, that, people in the community need food. Health is wealth. And health starts out with being able to make sure that, you can have good, nutritious meals. We see a lot of families. I was able to volunteer down there a couple weeks ago, did a video. So if you kind of want to know what God's Provision is about, you can go to the Rocky Mount Church. If you scroll down some, you'll see a video there, just kind of how that operation works and how many people in Franklin County are food insecure and really depend on this ministry to be able to, one of two things, maybe that's the only food they can get, or it helps supplement, if they're lower income, maybe some of the food they can buy, it allows them to feed, their families and stuff. We live in a crazy country, and this is a bigger conversation, but cheap food is bad food. So the fact they're able to come there and actually get some nutritious food, like I was talking to Casey, and I was amazed because part of what you guys were giving out was like a bag of nuts, like almonds or something. And if you bought that, if you went to Kroger's and got that, that's like $20. It's a massive bag, and we're able to provide that to families. So not only is it just nourishment, but it's good, healthy nourishment, which just really goes a long way, especially for kids in school and those type of things. So it's just a really, really great ministry.
Absolutely. And if you're one of our sponsors, one of our partners, we just want to thank you this morning for what you did Saturday to help that event go off so smoothly. And running's not really my thing. I get out there and give it a go. You and I were kind of mid-pack, I guess.
Yes.
When the results all shook down, Jamie and I were kind of in the middle of the event. So it's
mid-pack being the fastest of the turtles. In case you're wondering what mid-pack means.
So, like, running is like important for health reasons, and I do it, but it's not something I enjoy doing.
No, not at all.
And so it's like, you kind of push through it. We've got folks out there. See, this is what I think is beautiful about this event, is that not only do you have people who are there from our church, of course, supporting the ministry, but you have people from the community who are there to support it as well, who want to do it. And then you also have some serious runners that come out there. So we've got some people out there that want to win a medal. They want to win their age group, and they take it pretty serious. We have some running groups, some running clubs, I guess is what they're called, that come out and are part of this.
So because of the way our course goes in the loop, there's a couple of folks that are so fast, they are already coming back before I get out. Not good on the psyche. Not good. You want to come bench press, but not good on the psyche for the running part.
Yeah.
Really horrible.
Yep. So we'll be starting. Hey, we got about 360 some odd days until the next one. So we'll be getting ready and starting to look ahead to 2025, because this is something, like I said, 7 years going. It's been great. It's just been a great opportunity. So
the goal next year. So start running now. The goal next year is not to be the snail and the turtle. I'm going to try to move to turtle status. That's my next upgrade. Speaking of turtles and not doing well, my Dallas Cowboys. Oh my goodness. This is a Forward Together podcast. It ain't nothing moving forward together about the Dallas Cowboys. It was sad. Turned it off. Saw everything I needed to see in like 3 minutes. Cooper Rush. Where'd the good Cooper Rush go? It was bad, ugly, crying.
Just a quick scan through the scores let me realize most games were close this weekend. It was that Dallas game. I believe the Cardinals game was a little bit of a blowout, but not too well. So Dak might be out for the year.
Probably the best thing that's ever happened to the Cowboys. We're hoping Jerry joins them. Maybe Jerry's got a hamstring out. We'll see, and somebody else can take over for the next decade, possibly. I'm not sure. It could be one of those kind of decade injuries. We're hoping for Jerry. And I looked over the landscape. You got 3 teams. You got Detroit. Man, he threw 5 interceptions, and they still came back and won.
19 point
which is crazy.
Comeback. They were down 19 when I went to bed last night.
And that was like watching the Golden State Warriors come back. Like, you just don't see that in football very often. So you got Detroit really in the NFC. I don't know if anybody else is close. You got Buffalo and Kansas City. Kansas City right now, I know they're undefeated, smoke and mirrors. Don't feel like in the playoffs. When you're that lucky all the time, at some point, that luck's going to run out. And, I do believe their days are numbered.
You think Mahomes is lucky?
This year, 5 of their 7 wins are like in the last minute. And I just don't think I don't think that's a continual trend that you can rely on. Also,
we'll see.
It looks like that he's taken some of his contract and paid the NFL and the refs. They've been very, very fortunate on lots of calls. So we'll see how that continues. And I think you have Buffalo as the other team.
Josh Allen.
And the thing with football, though, is, and anybody who watches sports, it's not about who's best now. It's about who's the least injured once the playoffs come. So we'll see how all that works out. On a really positive note, while my Warriors didn't see this coming, having a great year, Steph Curry on fire. They did get blew out by the Cleveland Cavaliers the other day. Cleveland's 11-0. Didn't see that happening either. But then last night, my boys came back They were smoking OKC. OKC kind of came back. They still won, I think, by about 10. So glad to see Steph and the Warriors were able to reboot. Seems like a good dude outside of his political affiliations, and glad to see him just really doing it again this year. So, got to cheer for those older guys, except for LeBron.
What about Saturday? Did you see any good college games? Anything stand out to you?
After running the 5K and then having stuff to do at the house, no, not really. It's college football week to week. Like Alabama 2 weeks ago looked like they were probably done, and then they smoked LSU at LSU in Death Valley. So that was shocking. With the playoff this year, Oregon does seem to be the best, but with a 12-team playoff, so you still got to win, three games, I guess? 12, 6, or maybe 4 games to win the title. I really do think it's open. I don't know if the playoff is going to get quite what they wanted, because it seems like you're going to end up with, out of 12 teams, probably 4 to 5 from the SEC, 3 or 4 from the Big Ten, and they're going to fill in the blanks with a few others. So it's kind of going to be like the SEC Big Ten challenge. So I don't know if that's exactly what we all wanted, but it seems that's like where things are headed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. Ohio State it's still been pretty strong, just a close loss to Oregon. I think a statement Saturday was Alabama's win over LSU, and the surprise of the weekend was probably Georgia losing the way they did to Ole Miss Rebels, and so that shook up the entire SEC and put Ole Miss back in the conversation. Georgia's still in the conversation. Texas, Alabama. So there's quite a few, like you said, SEC teams that are making a case to be part of that final 12.
Well, the problem is with the SEC, we all think all those teams are good, so we see them beat each other. But really, what if they're not good? What if they're actually just all mediocre teams and they all end up with 2? They look great, like the games are good, and because it's the SEC, and I actually do think SEC football is the best as a conference, so don't mistake that. But you do get all these teams that beat each other up. We all think they're great, so they get ranked higher even with losses. What if they're actually just mediocre teams? And see, if they're 2 mediocre teams, it looks like good football. But we'll see. So still early in the season, and again, I love watching football, but it's just a game of attrition at some level. So we'll see whose quarterbacks are still standing, running backs, and defensive lines, and see. But Georgia, I would say Georgia's probably the biggest disappointment this year. They came in with all the hype and all the smoke, and they're sitting there with 2 losses. And I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Well, for me, I kind of like the parity. I kind of like it being more, even and seeing teams with loss or even multiple losses now. They're still, in my opinion, pretty solid teams, and having several of them with a couple of losses, it just kind of shows you how the field has changed. It's not just 1 or 2 teams that are running away with everything. So, I guess I have a little different perspective than you do. I wouldn't use the word mediocre, but we'll see.
I'm a Star Wars guy, so I like the evil empire. I think you need a sworn enemy, and right now...
That's why he's a Dallas fan. Empire.
Oregon's too nice to be the evil empire, so I think I always thought it was good for... I actually think it's good for sports if you have someone that, kind of like Alabama, where everybody's shooting to beat them. And I actually think it draws interest in ratings. So we'll see. It's the first year, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, speaking of evil and empire, before we segue to something else, it might have been a championship race in Phoenix yesterday.
You and a few other people know about it.
Yeah, several thousand. It was sold out. Sold out crowd, yeah. So I guess, anyway, Joey Logano won the championship. So I told you this the other week in the gym, how he got eliminated after the round of 12, and then Alex Bowman's car failed inspection, and he got put back into the final 8.
Okay.
Do you remember me telling you that?
I do, yes.
It had been over, and then he wins Las Vegas, so he has 2 weeks to get his car ready, and then lo and behold, he comes out yesterday and has the fastest car. It's actually his teammate Ryan Blaney down the stretch trying to pass him on the last few laps to win the championship. So Joey Logano wraps up the 2024 NASCAR season with the championship. His 3rd championship. You know what? There's only been 9 drivers other than him to win 3 championships.
I knew that.
How many of them can you name?
0. I just knew there were 9.
How many NASCAR drivers have won at least 3 or more championships?
Gordon.
Jeff Gordon.
Earnhardt.
Billy Elliott.
No, not Billy Elliott.
Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart. You got 3, but you missed the king.
Richard Petty.
Richard Petty, who won 7. Jimmy Johnson won 7.
And he also coached the Cowboys.
That's Jerry Jones. Jimmy Johnson. You're thinking
He was a racer and coach.
different Jimmy Johnson.
Different
Jimmy Johnson. So let's see. That's 5. Who are the other 3? The other 4. You got Darrell Waltrip. You got now you have Joey Logano. And just Kel Yarbrough, David Pearson. Yeah, I think that's 8.
All right. The 3 people who are going to watch this first podcast, there you go. Incredible. Did you know that? You can drop us a line in the comments. Tell us if you knew about that. Tell us if you want more NASCAR comments. That's what we want to know.
Yeah. What question do you have for us next week? That's what we want to know, right?
Yeah, we do. And I'm going to get all this in here somehow. So
all right.
We'll figure it out. So we're just going to segue right into what you got going on the rest of the week.
Rest of the week. I got a lot going on this week. A lot of different things. A lot of things I don't have every week. So let's see. Speaking in Chapel Friday.
Nice.
At CHA. We have CAMS this weekend. So I think I was elected to that board for the ministries board. And so I'm speaking for teaching on the Declaration of Faith Saturday. So I got a session, 20-minute session. So I got just a little bit extra things to prepare for this week. What about yourself?
Awesome. So got honestly a little boring week here for the first week of the podcast. So for me, it's a preparation week. I got some things in my own company to take care of, and then I start traveling for work. So I got to get a lot of stuff ready for some meetings, presentations that I travel over for the rest of the year. So this week is the last week I'm at home for a week for a while. So just getting everything ready to kind of go up through the year. It's crazy. We're just a few weeks from Thanksgiving, and add a few more weeks and it's Christmas. And time really flies.
Yeah. Hey, we need to talk about what today is, right? Before we close out, Veterans Day.
Oh, yeah, it is Veterans Day.
Veterans Day. We want to thank all of our veterans out there. Very appreciative for your service. Do you know why it's on November 11th?
No idea.
November 11th. So this will be our little history segment for today. The ceasefire that ended World War I was on the 11th month, the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour.
Okay.
So they had set the ceasefire that would end the conflict that was the first called the Great War, and then later we called it World War I. But that is why we chose it to be on November the 11th. And so typically Veterans Day ceremonies or programs start at 11 a.m. And so, remembering all of those, the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Veterans Day, we're recognizing and honoring those that are still with us. The poem that was read in church yesterday said something about that. And so I just think it's just great. We have 4 veterans in our church yesterday we were able to honor. And I just think it's important to take a minute to recognize the service of so many that did. Your dad's a veteran,
yep.
So you can speak personally to the importance of how this is to remember today.
Yeah, I got to see my dad on video at his church. They recognized him, and it's a really cool day. Dad, I love you. Thank you for your service. You might be the only person that made it through this entire podcast, so I appreciate you for watching and listening. And actually, that's a good place to wrap up. So we're excited to be doing this podcast. We're going to go forward together with us and with you, and we'll see you in the next one.